Hey, you guys, welcome back. I am thrilled to have Patti Garibay with me again today. We have had some great conversations in the past on our podcast, on hers. I'm going to link to all of those because you want to hear what she has to say. She's really awesome. But today, we are going to talk about 6 crippling realities that parents must face. And this is something that it's so important that we address these things, that we don't fear them, but we actually walk in light of them and parent intentionally to kind of confront them. So I'm excited to get into that. But first, Patti, welcome to the podcast. I am so glad that you're here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Leslie. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I am thrilled that you're here. I love the work that God has called you to do with American Heritage Girls and just the countless families and young ones that you all have impacted through this work. I want you to tell everybody before we dive in a little bit about yourself and really a kind of a nutshell of why you believe that it's so important that we have an American Heritage Girls and that families get involved with this kind of a resource.
I'm glad you asked that question. I like you, did not like plan to do this my whole life. Like one day as a little girl, I was going to become the founder of American Heritage Girls. That was never the intent, but rather there was a problem that needed to be solved, and I was trying to solve it in my own power. And the Lord came and He spoke to me, and He said, "You have the abilities to do that, but you
Hmm.
need me." And so I had started American Heritage Girls in 1995 as a result of the changes in the Girl Scouts USA. I had served the Girl Scouts very faithfully for 12 years as a leader of 3 different troops for my 3 different daughters, and it was also a form of ministry for me. But in 93, when they changed the Girl Scout oath or promise to no longer mandate an oath to God, I knew there was trouble a brewing. And
Mm.
when that happens and you have a character development program, just like if you have a homeschooling curriculum that's not based on Christ and not based on that solid rock, it is going to be based on cultural infection, really. And that's what
Yeah.
was happening to the Girl Scouts. And so I felt a calling. I felt this was going to be something for my own daughter for her formative years, and then we'll probably call it a day. God will quit calling me, and here we are, almost 30 years later. He's still calling for this mission, and He is growing it and pouring out His blessing upon it. So I guess it was really of Him, and He really does want this to be something for His daughters in this nation.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so grateful that you listened and that you took those steps of faith to make this practically happen. You know, God can do anything, but He chooses to use His people, and that's an amazing truth to just kind of meditate on. So I'm grateful that you guys actually stepped forward into that because if there was ever a time that families needed the support for their values, their beliefs, this is just, it's right up there high among those times when we need them bad.
It is an Esther moment, Leslie, and your fine work at teaching them diligently is right on par with that too. And I loved what you said earlier in the opening. You talked about intentional parenting, and isn't
Hmm.
that what we must be? It does Parenting doesn't just happen; it can just happen, but it doesn't happen well. We have to be
Right.
more intentional, and we need to listen to the community of believers around these issues. And so that's why I love that you're a thought leader in the homeschool education market, and we hope to be as American Heritage Girls in the experiential learning market, as
Mm.
well as understanding life skills and also the issues that are confronting today's girls, so we can get ahead of those and intentionally parent appropriately.
Right, right. Well, and it's so helpful just as a mom of girls, I can speak on this one. It's so helpful to have an organization, a group out there who's looking ahead, who sees trends, who does work that I can't do preemptively because I couldn't do it. I didn't have the time or the resources. And so to have a group out there like you guys who is looking forward, seeing trends, seeing what's going on, and then really intentionally helping parents, that's a huge blessing.
We pray it is, and we are glad to be in that space for sure to help valiantly carry the flag of our Christian faith into Christian families'
Mm,
homes through
mm.
the care and love of their daughters.
So
Absolutely.
good. So good. Well, let's actually dive into this topic of the day, the 6 crippling realities that Christian parents must face. I would love for you to kind of lay those out for us, and then we'll kind of dive into what they actually mean and what we need to do about them.
That sounds great, Leslie. I want to give credit to Dr. Tim Elmore of Growing Leaders, who really came up with these. And they resonated so much from my own work over the last 30 years and also what I'm seeing other volunteers are bringing to me. And I think these are just tremendous. So,
Hmm.
again, there are 6 of these. And if you're a note taker, it might be time to pull out that pen. But this is going to be quite an interesting conversation, I believe. So, number one, exposure for kids is up and experience is down. Now
Hmm.
let's peel that onion back a little bit. We all recognize that kids are being inculcated by screens at an earlier age. There's studies that 9 out of 10 preschoolers are already on tablets by the age of
Wow.
4. That they're getting a lot of information, and so they're being exposed to a lot of information, some good, bad, and some ugly.
Hmm.
But it's information overload, and the data shows that we need to let our kids outside to experience. So again, exposure is up, experience is down. Now, some parents are helicopter parents and they're very concerned. It is an unsafe world out there. But there have been studies that have said that actually this world is safer than when we were kids and our
Really?
parents let us go ride bikes and do all the things. We're just hearing about it all the time.
Okay.
24/7 news
Yep.
cycles, and we're hearing more and more about that. So that is something that we need to understand, that helicopter parenting and umbrellaing our kids or putting them in bubbles may seem like the right thing to do, but at the end of the day, or at the end of the teen years, you will be paying for all of that
Hmm.
protection
Hmm.
because your kids ultimately will not be, hopefully they're not going to be in your basement forever, right, Leslie? You're hoping that they will
Exactly.
fly and they will be able to do the things that the Lord has called them to do. But social researchers have confirmed that calculated risks accelerate kids' maturation in no way that a video or a lecture can.
Hmm.
So, calculated risks, experiential learning. This is what we do in American Heritage Girls so well, where the girls are stretching outside of their comfort zones. Yes, we've taken health and safety into consideration, but there's going to be a skin knee or two inevitably.
Yeah.
And that's how we grow thicker skin. That's how we become more resilient. So we need to remember a crippling reality. Exposure is up and experience is down.
Hmm.
How do we provide more experiences for our children? Because that is what they're going to remember
Right.
much more than what they saw on a screen. They're going to internalize the experience. And so, whether you're in American Heritage Girls or not, your homeschooling can provide that experiential learning that is so critical. And we all know that you learn better by that than reading text, even
Hmm.
if it's in a book and not on a screen. So
Exactly.
that's very important. You know, a lot of Gen Z kiddos are suffer from FOMO, which we all know what that is fear of
Hmm.
missing out. But there's also FOMO. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's fear of messing up.
Huh.
And so we have got to let our kids, and this is an overused phrase, fail forward, but we truly do. Because let's look at us as adults. The more that we have learned are during our desert times or during the times when we've messed up, and I've not regretted a mess up.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't had to go through that, but you know what? The learnings are so key, and that should
Hmm.
be true for our kids too. So let's use our own wisdom that the Lord has provided us as adults and use that towards our kids. So that's exposures up, experience down. You want to hear
Hmm.
the next one?
I do.
Cool.
I'm writing it down, so for sure.
Good, good. Stimulation is up and critical thinking is down. Now,
Hmm.
this should not be surprising. It sort of goes hand in hand, almost in tandem, as the exposure thing. Stimulation, meaning that on those screens, they're getting immediate advertisements. They're getting suggestions of what they should be like, who they should follow, what influencers they should be around. But according to a 2020 NPR article, social media use is is intrinsically tied to loneliness.
Wow. I've heard that.
Again, social media use. The more social media use, the more it is up,
Hmm.
the lonelier you are. So that is really critical to know. So fewer people today belong to a church or a club like American Heritage Girls. Very few are doing that. More and more are more settled in sitting on their screen. And I'm seeing teens do this all
Yeah.
the time. And we still, though, are wired for authenticity and relationship. The Lord has not changed our wiring because there's devices in our
Hmm.
hands. No, that's the longing of the human heart to connect with another human heart. So, what can a parent do? I think in this situation is recommending a boundary on devices as
Yeah.
far as time and how much can be done with time. I had recently heard of a statistics that we have 168 hours of the day. All of us have the same amount, no less, no more. But here's the deal. Kids on screens with media are having 60 hours of that week being eaten up by media,
Oof.
3 hours by our church, about 25 hours for schooling. So the question remains, who is discipling our kids?
Yeah.
Is it the church? Is it the parents? Or is it the media?
Mm.
That's why we got to pull them off. It cannot be something that we just let happen. Again, intentional parenting. So that's important. I think that I love that one. Stimulation is up, critical thinking is down. Now, another way that we can help with the critical thinking is when we are seeing movies or reading books or what we actually ask open-ended questions that just do not
Hmm.
require a yes and no. And you know, Leslie, from education, how important that is for the child to start formulating their own opinions
Right.
and so that you can see their critical thinking skills. That is a muscle that must be flexed. It doesn't always come naturally to every child. They want to press the easy button. They can find their answers on Google. No, we're doing this differently. We're going
Yep.
to intentionally parent, and we're going to also encourage them to have critical thinking, which in the end of the day will be very beneficial to them as an adult, as we know,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And, even kind of building on that, the ability to teach back what they've learned, what they, we would do this every Sunday. We'd come home from church and have them tell us what the Lord spoke to them about. It was multifaceted because one, we could tell that they were listening. There was kind of a little bit of accountability there. But two, we all got to see that the Holy Spirit speaks to different people differently. And the things that each one would extract were often different because they're different people. And so even just engaging in those conversations, there's so many benefits beyond just the critical thinking, just the mastery of the information, but it's also deeply relational because you get more insight into how they think, what's important to them and that kind of thing. So many benefits to this.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about the intentionality again and what you do on Sundays after church. Does that take time? Yes, it does. It takes time from something else you might be doing, but it's worth it. So,
Yep.
again, we have to have margin to allow our kids to critically think.
Mm,
Even in today's work environments, it is so easy to answer emails. That's the easy thing.
yep.
Anybody can do that. But to really do that heavy lifting of strategic planning or looking ahead or having foresight for trends, that's the heavy lifting. That's not we today really want to do. What we want to do is just do the replies, right?
Yeah.
And that's true of our kids' too. So we need to remember to teach them, and we need to remember to teach our kids to affirm who they are so they don't seek validation from others.
Mm,
And we can do that through critical thinking
yeah.
skills. Otherwise,
So
it's
good.
easy button.
Yep.
So here we are at number three. And you're not going to be surprised by this one either, Leslie. I'm preaching to the choir here, but I hope your listeners are um, feeling encouraged in that choosing homeschooling is a definite win in all
Yeah.
six of these crippling realities, but we need to make
Mm,
sure that we harness and keep these in mind while we're educating our kids. So, number three is connections are up, but community is
yeah.
down. Now, we aren't surprised by this. 81% of all households have at least one device connected to the internet constantly.
Mm,
81%. And our homes are becoming more connected than ever before. But remember that loneliness statistic I provided earlier in this podcast? That is actually what is the result of all this connectiveness. We have
yeah.
more friends, virtual friends than ever, but we're lonelier than ever. So, according to a 2020 NPR article, that social media was associated with loneliness. And we have to understand that a startling 61% of young people ages 18 to 25 have miserable, what they call miserable degrees of loneliness. So, this
Wow.
isn't just affecting our teens and preteens, it's affecting our young adults as well. And this stuff is toxic, and we have to
Mm,
do that. We have to understand that we need to remove and measure all of this out. So, community is down. What do you do about community? Well, again, I don't want to blow my own whistle, but American Heritage Girls is a great way to form community,
yeah.
as is co ops, as
Hmm.
are the church. I mean, all of these places where you can have real life interactions are encouraged. The other thing is, I think it's really important. We're going to cover this more in a little bit here. Is getting into the outdoors with friends.
Yes.
That is like the best antidote to mental health issues and loneliness and depression is to be
Hmm.
outside and to be with friends. So those are win-win, right? Serotonin's
Exactly.
up. It's wonderful when that happens. So number 4, this is exciting to me, Leslie, but also a little depressing. When you see opportunity is up and risk taking is down.
Mm.
Now, opportunity meaning a pair as a there's been a study that says 7 out of 10 high school students in America want to be an entrepreneur. I think that's cool, Leslie. That makes me
Wow.
excited. Isn't that the American dream? And that's pretty much a lot of what our country was founded on was entrepreneurs and that kind of a basis of trying to make your way. And we as Christians are able to say, make our way with the help of the Holy Spirit, leaving all
Hmm.
of this to the Lord and using the skills and gifts He's given us. But for today's kids, they like the idea. Well, why do you think Shark Tank is so
Yeah.
popular, even with kids? So what we see, and this was cool. I was at a homeschool convention recently, and had heard that there was an American Heritage girl that had her own booth. I said, "Really,
Oh,
a current
yay.
American Heritage girl?" And here she does a podcast on homeschooling for the high schooler, and that's what it's called.
Hmm.
She is presently in American Heritage Girls. This podcast has gotten so successful that she has monetized it. She's making a way as an entrepreneur in doing something that she loves and feels passionate about. And that is making her excited about her opportunity. But did that opportunity take risk with it? Yes, it did. She had
Hmm.
to invest in equipment, etc. We have to teach our kids that it is okay to take a risk. How to calculate a risk. That's important too. That isn't that a great discussion, Leslie, to talk to
Yes.
your kids? Okay, you want to go whatever, rock climbing. Let's talk about that can be a risky business, especially
Yep.
on El Capitan in Yosemite, right? Well, let's talk about your equipment and what could happen and all those things, and then you calculate the risk. Or
Hmm.
it could be something as simple as this woman, this young lady in her podcast. So we need to remember that we have been parents that have risked too little, we've rescued too quickly, and we've
Mm.
raved too easily.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if some of that actually feeds into that fear of messing up too. The consequences, the risk is so great that even though they have this entrepreneurial desire, that fear of messing up just holds them back because all they've done is been told how great they are and there's a whole lot of risk over here. I mean, seriously, that's a scary land to walk into.
It is, Leslie. And what happens, especially with girls, this is sort of a thing that boys aren't immune to this, but perfectionism is a big
Mhm.
problem with
Yes.
girls. And I think we do that when we are overly raving all the time.
Mhm.
And Dr. Meg Meeker had said on something that I was talking with her about, she said, don't reward your daughter on behavior, reward her on character.
Yeah.
Behavior comes and goes, and that's where perfectionism falls in because it's around the behavioral instincts
Mm.
versus character. Am I always being loving? Am I trying to be more like Jesus? That's when the rubber hits the road. That's what makes you the Christian woman that you want to be. It's not about getting straight A's, or it's not about achieving that next goal at that soccer game. It is about your character.
Mm.
And so this is important for us to understand that character is often developed in those desert times, which we talked about earlier, where risk taking happens and maybe we fail, but at least we're skinning our knees and not face planting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So please provide your children ways that they can seize opportunities around them and understand what calculated risk really means
Mm.
and what it looks like.
So good. So good. All right. That brings us to number 5 by my count.
It does. Good counting. Yes, indeed.
I told you I was taking notes over here.
I love that. I love that. Well, this will be no surprise either, Leslie, because I've talked about it a little bit, but it is at an all time high. Anxiety is up
Mm-hmm.
and activity is down. Now, I'm a girl that has had anxiety from childhood trauma, etc. And I know a lot of adults that have anxiety. And a matter of fact, 1 in 3 adolescent girls have diagnosed anxiety
Wow.
disorders in today's world. So
Wow.
I'm not alone, and the kids are really not alone. So what do we do? All right. Well, we've already said we've got all this information and exposure coming to them. We've got these fake friends on social
Mm,
media. We've already said let's take that away for a while. Let's not just have that at their fingertips. But we also said that we need to really build community to help antidote. But here it is. Anxiety is up and activity is down. Physical activity helps increase the production of your brain's feel good
mm-hmm.
neurotransmitters. The serotonin elevates. Like when I had just said, if you go outside and you go outside with friends, you've got a real win win. Your serotonin's going to go up. You're going to be able to think clearer, by the
Yep.
way, because the transmitters are clarified. And then you're also going to be able to breathe fresh air. And breathing's another interesting thing and study that they've had with adolescent girls is they are failing to breathe. Something as
Hmm.
simple as that
Wow.
they're doing shallow breaths, which adds actually to anxious
Sure.
behaviors. And so the deep breathing that when we're always told to relax, what are you told to do? Breathe deeply.
Yep. Take a
When
deep
you're
breath.
Exactly. When you are outside, your body automatically goes into a deep breathing mode.
Mm,
And so we want to make sure that we aren't de-emphasizing mental activity. Please don't get me wrong, but that we are re-emphasizing physical activity, that we're outside, we're exercising, we're getting all of our hormones moving and adjusting, and that we are feeling God's presence. And that's what
mm.
I love about being outdoors, is to be able to
Yes.
glorify him in his creation. And that is best done in the out of doors. So again, anxiety is up, activity is down. Your girl's anxious, your son's anxious, get them outdoors in the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful nature that God has provided to us and get him physically active.
Well, and the other, again, this is so much of this just lends itself to being so relational among families,
Yeah.
building that family community and those family bonds that are so impactful and so important just with long term effects. But as you're looking at getting outside, get out with them, play. We spent so much time when the kids were younger playing tag or playing hide and seek or whatever, just getting out and doing that. When our 3 older kids were teenagers, them and their friends would often come up to us still to play with them. Then we'd go out and play, except it was at night and we're playing, ghost in the graveyard or
Right.
something. But still, it really laid the foundation for great relationships. I mean, for David and I, it kept us young.
Yeah.
We were active with him, so there's a win-win there. But you're getting outside, you're not on those screens, you're not doing anything else except enjoying one another, enjoying nature, getting that vitamin D, the fresh air, everything that's so good for you. And the relational elements of that within a family and a community are just hard to overstate.
Amen, sister. Preach it. Yes. All right, we got one more, and I think we
All
only
right,
have
let's
time
do
for one
it.
more. And it's instant gratification is up and resilience is down.
Hmm.
All right. Now we're not surprised by this either. It's today we live more in a microwave world than a crock pot world
Yep.
where we want instant answers. Even generationally, our children don't go and wait to ask grandparents how something's made. They look it up. I remember my son, we had this beautiful encyclopedia of how to do different things in the workshop and how to fix things. Oh no, mom and dad. I mean, I appreciate the offer, but I can look it up on YouTube.
I was
You
about to
know,
say
those
YouTube will teach you everything you need to know, silly.
Yes, so you don't have to talk to any older person
Yep.
or any wiser person, but you have it right away. And
Mm,
what we fail to really see is that the skill of understanding resilience and doing the hard things. And I remember that book being written by, I think, by the Harris boys, Do Hard Things.
yeah.
That was such a great book and a great idea because kids and teens can do hard things
Hmm.
if we allow them to do hard things. And that's the key. Is resilience is really about bouncing back from hardship. I remember being at a Women of Faith conference many years ago, and one of the main speakers she literally had a ball of rubber bands. And she said that was her. She had become so resilient that she had
Wow.
to bounce back
Hmm.
repeatedly to be able to really navigate life. And if we cannot teach our kids how to navigate life through being resilient and doing hard things and bouncing back from hardship, they're going to have a really difficult time of it,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. y- as you're talking about all of these things, I what I don't want is for parents to be hearing this and just like getting more overwhelmed, like they're swimming upstream, like, so if you could give some words of counsel to these moms and dads who are looking and saying, oh, I've seen this is kind of crept in, or I'm seeing signs of this or whatever, what are some of the big things that parents can do to, again, intentionally parent against these things, to set up structure within their families that will make their kids successful rather than just let them fall prey to these things?
Right. I think first and foremost is limit your social media time or
Yeah.
any time on the screens. Get that away from them. Put it in it's a special time that you have it. It's a monitored time. And remember, you are the policeman of your kids'
Yeah.
social media, and there should be no question about that. The other thing is make sure that you intentionally seek out friends for your kids. It's not always easy for all kids to make friends. So you may need to get into a situation where there's already a friend group like
Right.
minded that you can help them navigate that. Get them outdoors. Leslie, I loved your tag and you're running around. We did that all the time with our kids and are
Mm-hmm.
doing it with our grandkids. And that is a very essential, intentional part. Critical thinking. Talk about the sermon from Sunday. Yes. Talk about what you saw in the Super Bowl commercials. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Take time for critical thinking. And that can be done around the kitchen table. You don't have to have separate time for all of this,
Right.
but keep it in your brain. And then also, I wanted to share with you that this is very cool. There was a Stanford experiment a few years ago that tested how long people could stand barefoot in a bucket of ice water. And
Whew.
the outcome was eye opening. People could remain in the ice water twice as long on average when someone stood near them, encouraging them to keep trying. That's called
Wow.
learned industriousness.
Hmm.
And that was a term by psychologist Robert Eisenberger. But here's the thing: parents need to be by their kids, watching and encouraging,
Yeah.
not always affirming, but encouraging them to keep trying. Stay in that bucket of water a little bit longer, get resilient, flex your muscle, and I will be there for you. And moreover, the Lord will be there for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. And there were so many just great takeaways. And it all comes down to being engaged with your kids, actually being aware of the pitfalls and the dangers that are out there, those harsh realities. Now you know them. How are you going to strategically stand in the gap, not let your kids fall prey to those, but rather give them other tools, other opportunities to steer them away from that? And again, like you noted, so many of these boxes can be checked through American Heritage Girls. So
Absolutely.
we're getting a little low on time. I want you to tell everybody who may not know, what is American Heritage Girls? How is it different from, let's say, Girl Scouts? How does it function and actually support what a parent is doing as a, it's a parachurch organization. It's a group that comes alongside. They're not trying to replace, they're coming alongside. How does that look?
Right. We are a Christ centered character development program for girls. We serve girls ages 5 to 18, and your daughter can join at any time during that time. She doesn't have to start at 5 and end at 18. It's anytime. It's a
Hmm.
glide path. We work alongside the church. The church actually charters the troop, it becomes an extension of the ministry of the church. It is, like I mentioned, Christ centered, and biblical worldview is the way that everything is looked at. The girls do activities such as badge acquisition, level award, goal setting kinds of things. They learn about leadership, and that's not just being in the front of the line, but being in the middle, in the back of the
Yeah.
line, using your influence for good. We also encourage the girls to be in the out of doors, learn the camping skills, even though there might be fearful of it. But
Yeah.
look at what it does. I mean, look at the studies for mental health. And then
Yeah.
the friendships. We can't underestimate the power of the friendships. American Heritage Girls has also launched a brand new podcast called Raising Godly Girls.
Mm-hmm.
It airs 3 times a week. In addition to that, we have a brand new ebook, Leslie, and we've got 5 of them, all free for the download for your listeners. And the
Oh,
latest one
excellent.
is on resilience. And that is such a key critical thing. So we've got biblical raising godly girls guide to biblical worldview, fear and anxiety, gender and identity,
Mm.
peace in times of war and conflict, and now the latest, resilience. So
Wow.
check it out. It's a great place for you to start a conversation, meaningful conversation with your daughter at any age about any of these important issues confronting today's girls.
Oh, so, so good. And we'll be sure that we include all of those links in the show notes to make it really, really easy for you. But if someone is going or wanting to find where a troop is near them, or, even to see if they need to start one,
Yes.
where do they go? How do they go about finding that out?
That's a wonderful question. AmericanHeritageGirls.org, or just type in the Google American Heritage Girls. You can see on the top right corner how to find a troop in your area, pop in your zip code, or how to start a troop for your
Hmm.
own ministry within your church. And that's a way for sure that your daughter will be able to get involved, because Leslie, there's far too many wait lists. We need more
Yes.
troops. So that would be a
Excellent.
blessing to everyone.
Excellent, excellent. And I want to ask you just kind of one last follow-up question because of what you just said there. What is the benefit to the moms who are actually starting these troops, who are actually engaging as leaders and getting involved? How does it impact their lives? Because my gut is it's pretty impactful.
You become part of a tribe. And we all
Yeah.
need tribes, and too many ladies are too lonely too.
Yes.
So you've got the tribe, you're doing life together, because this is lifelong discipleship, is really what American Heritage Girls offers. And in addition to that, they learn leadership skills along with the friendship skills. They
Mm,
also are able to double check, how is my biblical worldview? And they'll learn more about the Lord and his word. So this is much more than just a girls ministry. It's become a family ministry, and dads are invited to be part of it too. So we encourage all moms to think about this. This is part, and whether or not you have the other part, oh my goodness, Leslie, the curriculum is incredible. And we're 60% homeschoolers, and they say
yep.
sometimes we just use this curriculum, and the assessors, that the state assessors are saying, this is amazing. So
Good.
that's another really cool piece for homeschool families to know about. And don't
Well,
forget,
yeah.
grandmas and grandpas can get involved too.
Yeah, and what a help to families. What a help to have really that much that many resources, that a resource that touches that many areas of your family in one spot. It really is such a help to families, such a great resource for homeschooling, strengthening relationships, building community, discipling one another, growing in your own walk with the Lord. There are just so, so many ways that American Heritage Girls is just a wonderful resource for your family. So, Patty, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Leslie. Time sure does fly.
It does indeed. It does. And everyone else, thank you for joining us today as well. We talk all the time about how the Great Commission starts right there at home. You are responsible for the way that you parent your kids, the way that you bring them to Jesus, the way that you prepare them to walk with him all the days of their lives. How are you engaging with them day in and day out? Are you looking at their hearts? Are you being aware of the dangers that are around them and intentionally giving them opportunities to steer clear of that? Are you engaged in conversations that are meaningful? So many great opportunities await you as you parent the teach them diligently way, as you walk, as you talk, as you go about your day. It's very natural yet very intentional. And American Heritage Girls is a great organization to partner with to help you do that within your family even better. So I encourage you, go check them out, AmericanHeritageGirls.org. Check out their free ebooks. Find a troop near you or get one started. I will put all of those links in the show notes. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon.